Hello America, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the tax on federal income presented to the American people in March 2023. So the federal income tax is the tax on federal income. It is not the federal tax on income. And today we're going to provide clear and convincing evidence, starting with current and historical records. In 1862, here's the first tax return. And in the first tax return it says, "It is a tax under the excise laws of the United States." The current version can be found on the IRS website for the next year, which is 1863, and it says exactly the same words. It is a tax under the excise laws of the United States. Let's have a look at the Senate congressional records. Here it is. I'm going to blow up the first part and the second part, and I'm going to quote it. And on June 16, 1909, President Taft wrote, "The decision in the Pollock case left power in the national government to levy an excise tax, which accomplishes the same purpose as a corporation income tax. I therefore recommend to the Congress an amendment to the Constitution conferring the power to levy an income tax upon the national government." And that's the origin of the 16th Amendment. Notice it is an excise tax, and it is an income tax levied upon the national government without apportionment among the states. Now let's have a look at Congressional House records after the 16th Amendment. Here it is. Here they are blown up. It says it was an excise tax in 1888 and still is an excise tax in 1943. This is the next page, and here it is summarized. And it reads that the fundamental nature of the tax was not a direct tax, but was an excise or a duty. It is still fundamentally an excise or a duty with respect to the privileged activities which produce income. It is an excise tax. Now let's have a look at Supreme Court decisions. And each of them say, before and after the 16th Amendment, that it is an excise tax. It is not a direct tax. And what is excise? Excise is a cut. The tax on federal income is a cut of federal privilege. Now let's have a look at statutory proof. First one is Section 3401, where wages is defined as remuneration for services of an employee for his employer. And the word employee means a government employee, and the word employer means the person whom a government employee performed any service, meaning that the employer is government. So wages is government pay for government service, and that's how simple it is. If you consented to receiving wages, then you consented to the federal income tax. Here's more statutory proof. Section 1402 says the term net earnings from self-employment means the gross income derived from any trade or business, and the term trade or business includes the performance of the functions of a public office. So then, what is net earnings from self-employment? Obviously, the term net earnings from self-employment means the gross income derived from the performance of the functions of a public office. And what kind of income can you get from the performance of the functions of a public office? Government income, of course. So if you consented to deriving net earnings from self-employment, then you derived government income, and you must pay the tax on federal income. If net earnings from self-employment means the gross income derived from the performance of the functions of a public office, then what is gross income? Obviously, it means income derived from a public office. Therefore, gross income includes income derived from a public office, which is obviously government income, which is federal income, and therefore taxable income. So if gross income equals federal income is equal to taxable income, then what is the tax on gross income? Well, it's obviously the tax on federal income and not the federal tax on income. Okay, now we're going to prove this using elimination. So United States versus Ballard, the court said the general term income is not defined in the Internal Revenue Code. What is defined is gross income. And in Eisner versus Macomber, it says Congress cannot by any definition and may adopt define income because it cannot by legislation alter the Constitution from which alone it derives its power to legislate. So if the term income is not and cannot be defined, then what is the subject of the tax? The law is the definition and limitation of power, and if the power is not in terms granted, it does not exist. So if the subject of the tax cannot be income, then it must be the tax on federal income. Therefore, the federal income tax is the tax on federal income. It is emphatically not the federal tax on income. Okay, let's look at the 1040 instructions, where you'll find numerous references to the federal income tax. And what you will notice that each of these references indicate that the word federal is not capitalized. And the significance of it not being capitalized is that federal is an adjective and therefore describes the next word, tax. It is not a possessive pronoun. Thus, following the standard rules of English, we can safely say that the federal income tax is the tax on federal income. Now, sometimes you get this counter argument like, well, the federal income tax is the federal tax on income, much like the state income tax is the state's tax on income. If that's true, then what is income? Do you mean 16th Amendment income? Because that's the excuse that the IRS uses to steal your money. Okay, fine. Then the federal income tax is the federal tax on 16th Amendment income, where 16th Amendment income is the corporate excise tax of 1909. Who says? How about the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court says that the 16th Amendment income has been taken to mean the same thing as used in the corporate excise tax of 1909, and that generally income means a gain derived from capital or from labor or from both. So I believe this is clear and convincing evidence that the federal income tax is the tax on federal income. It is emphatically not the federal tax on income. This simple truth means that most people are not subject to the federal income tax, and only people who benefit from the federal privilege are subject to the tax. To find out more, watch how to file an honest tax return, and let the truth set you free. Thank you for watching.